I'm so excited for scarf weather to be here, and this scarf in particular that I'm going to show you how to make is probably my favorite of the season. We're going to be making a triangle one that can also be a shawl, but the cool thing is that it's made out of a new yarn by Bernat. It's Super Value, which is not new, but now it's Super Value Stripes, so it does all the work for you. It's stripes, as you can see here, without you having to join any new yarns. And you know this is a great yarn. It has been around forever. It's tried and true. Knitters and crocheters love color though, and now this really delivers with this striping action. And I'm always surprised at a yarn that's so affordable like this is also really soft and really nice to work with. And this is a super great project to display both sort of how beautiful the striping happens and also how something simple can be really beautiful. Let's get started. For this project, you're going to need 2 balls of Bernat Super Value Stripes. We used color Wildberry stripes. You'll also need a set of US 8 5mm knitting needles, or whatever size you need to obtain gauge. Lastly, you'll need 1 stitch marker. All right, this triangle scarf starts with only 2 stitches, and then we're slowly going to be casting on to set up over about 11 rows. So I'm going to just go ahead and do those setup rows for you. So I've cast on 2 stitches already, and I'm working on a circular needle, not because we're going to ever be knitting in the round, but just because I like to have the cord to accommodate the growing piece, and I also find that it's easier on my wrists. So for the first row, we're going to KFB, which is knit in the front and the back of the stitch. So you knit in the front as you normally would, and then without taking that loop off the left needle, you're going to knit again, but in the back of the loop. And what that does is that increases a stitch by 1. And then you're going to knit that next stitch. Okay, that's your right side. So then on the wrong side, we're knitting the first 2 stitches. And then we're going to knit in the front and the back again to increase a stitch. Okay, we're flipping it over. We're going to knit front and back again. And you'll notice that we're only increasing on one side. And I'll show you why in a second. Then we're going to knit 2 stitches together here. Knit 1. So that was our 3rd row. So for the 4th row, and from now on, this will be what you do on all wrong size rows. You're going to knit to the last stitch and then increase, doing that knit front and back. Fifth row, knit front and back. Knit 2 together, knit the last 2 stitches, sixth row, wrong side row, we're going to knit to that last stitch, and then we're going to do our increase, knit front and back. All right, knit front and back for our 7th row. Knit 2 together. Knit 3, and I promise I'm going to explain why we're doing those knit 2 togethers. I just want to have a little more fabric for you to see. This is the 8th row, so it's a wrong side row, so we know that we always on those knit all the way to the last stitch. And then we do our increase, which is a knit front and back. Ninth row, knit front and back. Knit 2 together. Knit 4, which you're just knitting to the end. 10th row, grab some more yarn. Do as we have done before, we just knit to the last stitch. Knit front and back. Flip it over. 11th row, knit front and back. And this is the last of our setup rows. We're going to knit to the last 6 stitches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, I knit one too many. And then we're going to place a marker and then knit to the end. Or I'm sorry, place marker, and then we're going to knit 2 together. I've placed my marker, knit 2 together, and then knit 4. I want to also stop here because we're working in garter stitch. It's easy to forget which is your right and your wrong side. So I like to put a little marker. You can use one of a safety pin or a stitch marker, whatever works for you, so that you always know that you're on the right side. And you'll see here that since we're only doing the increases on the same end, that the slope is only happening on one side. And so it's slowly going to be growing this way, which is really cool to watch. I'm pretty smart at the designer. My friends at the Bernat design team took care of this one, and I've been really impressed with this design because of how it evolves. And I'll show you in my next swatch how it's come together. So the next row is the 11th and 12th row. Let me bring both of these in here. So it's down here. I wanted to show you this piece because the self-striping has happened. I haven't done any striping. This is all the yarn. And the cool thing that is happening is you can see a little dip. It's like a subtle chevron, and that's what the knit 2 togethers are doing. And then you're getting all of the increases on the one end or the one side are causing this really cool slope. It's so smart. I really love the choice that they made here. So this is a 12th row. This is a wrong side row. So we're going to do as we did on every other wrong side row, which means we're going to knit all the way to the end. And I could have shown you on the smaller piece. I just frankly like looking at the stripes. And I also wanted to show you that just how it grows and how the stripes evolve. So for the majority of the pattern, after you've done those first 11 rows, you're going to be doing just these 2 rows that I'm showing you now. 12 and 13 are the repeat rows. So 12 will be as all the other wrong side rows were, where you knit across the entire edge, and you'll have more stitches as you go along as it gets wider. And again, this is another reason why using a circular is great, because it's got the cord to accommodate that without being a little rough on your wrists. Get my yarn out of the way. Okay, so we're at our last stitch, and we're going to knit front and back, and then we're going to flip over. Okay, so we'd put a stitch marker on this other little piece, and you can see it here on this bigger piece. So there should always be 6 stitches before it, but because of the knit 2 together, you're going to notice that your stitch marker is going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not in the right place. So I want to, before I even start working on this right side row, I want to go ahead and put it where it needs to be as setup. You don't have to use a split stitch marker. I just sometimes use it because I feel like if I forget to move it on that other row, I can always move it here without having to struggle with moving stitches off the needle. Okay, so now that I'm set up, I'm going to do the 13th row. So we're going to knit front and back. That's that increase we've been doing the whole time. And then we're going to knit to that marker. And what's really cool about this is that we're making this as a scarf, but you could continue this pattern for as big as you wanted it to be. You could make this into a full shawl if you wanted to, easily. And because the yarn is doing all the color work for you, this is really fun and easy project to work on, but it has a lot of visual impact. Okay, so we are almost to the marker. We're going to slip the marker, knit 2 together after the marker, and then knit to the end. And this is what I was talking about before. So because we knit those 2 together there, we now know that we will not have 6 stitches on the side of the marker again, so we're gonna have to move it again before we work our next right side row. But it's creating that really cool, subtle chevron look. And that's all that you have to do for the entire, those 2 rows, the wrong side where you're knitting, or you're increasing a stitch at one end, and then the right side where you're increasing, but you're also decreasing. And you do that for the entire project. And thanks to the striping of the Bernat Super Value yarn, you get this really cool look with minimum effort. And that's all there is. And here you can see the finished scarf. I love wearing it bandit style. Garter stitch never looks so good. And you can get more patterns like this one at yarnspirations.com.